thank you again for coming. We said hellos before we press record, but hello to anyone who's watching the recording. Thank you for your time and thank you for coming. So before we start our metal form today, we're just going to do a brief introduction, maximum half an hour, just looking at a little bit of the theory to really understand, because if you've ever done any martial arts or Qigong, then you'll have an understanding of this. But if you've never done it and only heard it, doing a metal form might not make any sense. So the idea here is to give a bit of context. Um, if it is new to you, it could come across as overwhelming. There's a lot of information. I've tried to keep it really simple just to understand some of the themes that are coming from the deeper sense of the movement, because a lot of us, we do lots of different, so many different movement modalities exist, and yet we're all looking to find which one's right for us. What yoga, qigong, and Chinese medicine, martial arts have brought me is that deeper meaning. I can do a movement just for my muscles, but especially with qigong and the Chinese medicine, the elements behind it, it's really helped me, along with the yoga philosophy, to really find a very peaceful, tranquil, harmonious state of mind, whether I'm trying to do loads of pick up a really heavy weight, or whether I'm in an argument, or something that's really difficult in life. Those difficult moments, it's helped me to find this harmonious flow. And so when I move, it's taught me how to keep this almost meditative state, which I was able to try on the mat and then try off the mat. And it really changed my world, my little life. And that's why I'm really passionate about it, especially when I see with my students how these abstract things from the past, okay, so thousands of years ago the Chinese were doing this, what's that got to do with me today? That's why I talk about ancient wisdom for our daily lives, because we can take snippets of this wisdom from the past, from the ancient sages, and apply it to the modernity of our hectic lives. So that's just a little bit of the why. So in case anyone watching the recording or here today doesn't know, in Chinese medicine and Qigong, so Qigong is a branch of Chinese medicine. Qigong is the act of moving one's qi. Qi is your vital energy, it's your vital force, your life force inside, which they believe lives in the lower dantian, just below the navel. So when you do your qi gong, the gong is the exercise, it's the moving one's qi around. And how do you do that with the mind, your intention, and also the breath work? So that's why the Chinese five elements are important here. That's the context, that's the link. And there are five phases, which are often referred to the elements. And each season is associated with one of these phases or one of these elements. So in spring, we have wood. So we have here spring, wood. In the summer, we have fire. In the late summer, because there's 5 seasons, according to Chinese medicine, we have this element of earth. We are in metal, and then we go to water in the winter. So that's just a little bit of context. And these are cycles that keep going, and they're in harmony with nature's flow. So let's see how. The elements and the seasons move harmoniously together in cycles. And along with this, each element is associated with organs in the body, emotions, colors, directions, and much more. So when you start learning about this, it can seem so strange that a season has like wood. You either have a relationship with that or not, or you're just thinking of like a wooden spoon or a tree. Like, it can seem so strange. But then once you get familiar with it, you realize the symbols that come, like bamboo and strength and new beginnings. There's a direction, there's a color, there's emotions. Once we learn it, and if we're interested, each cycle, each season, we can tap back and learn and read and relive it. We really begin to embody this wisdom. So with the metal element, the autumn season sees this transition into the metal element. And the metal represents transformation, letting go, and nurturing the emotional and physical health through balance and harmony with nature. Okay, so letting go is something that you'll hear me say a lot today. Just a few nice little pictures to understand the metal element. So there's an influence on our health and well-being. So according to Chinese medicine, looking through the lens of Chinese medicine, I'll just move you guys over here. When autumn time arrives, through the lens of Chinese medicine, we look at the lungs, which is the yin organ, and the large intestine. So each season has an element. Each element has at least two, some have a few more organs. You have a yin and the yang. So just like the symbol of the yin and the yang, the lungs are considered yin, which is the female organ. The large intestine is the yang. The lungs draw in fresh air and release waste, and the large intestines eliminate waste, the physical waste in the body. So both of these organs have that same theme of elimination, getting rid of toxins in the body. And we see this theme, which is present both in the physical body and the emotional body. Because the emotions which are associated with metal are grief. Okay, and this is something that as humans, we all experience at some point in our life. And when we are struck by grief, it can burden the lungs, and breath work can become really difficult. And I think that quite a lot of us might have had some experience of that. You know, when we read that, we might go, oh my goodness, that's me when this happened, when that happened, or any breathing issues, anyone who has difficulty breathing deeply, which does come with like yoga or holistic movement practices. Through Qigong, so movements and forms through Qigong, and the food we use to nourish our body, we can work on balancing these emotions that arise to harmonize any grief that we may observe being released. A wonderful quality of grief, however, once we are conscious of it and once we work through it, is that it can lead us to discover metal's characteristics of strength, courage, and dignity. So if we think of the symbol of the yin and the yang, you know, you have the light side and the dark side. We are often taught that the dark side, you know, it's categorized as positive and negative, masculine and feminine. You know, when I first found out that the dark side is feminine and negative years ago, I was a bit of a feisty teenager. I got really offended. So what do you mean? That's negative, the female side. But that's the funny side of what we've been taught. Or if I'm grieving, we've been taught, you know, well, you should always be happy. Why aren't you happy? You've got this, you've got that. But the human body, the human experience is complex. We are full of emotions. And what I really love about the lessons from the Tao with the metal element is, you know, grief is considered bad, okay? But look at this expression, whatever we live through that causes us to have grief, things need to come out. You know, the carbon dioxide needs to come out. That's why we breathe out, or through our nose, breathe out. You know, the large intestine, you know, if you're not going to the bathroom every day, you know, there's some issues going on. So we need to physically release toxins. And yet when it comes to the toxic emotions that our body wants to release, we judge ourselves. Or if we don't, maybe other people. There's always judgments, conditions that society's told us. We should be like this, not like this. You should be like that, not like that. And these things, these ideas, they don't help us. They don't help that inner dialogue, especially when we're trying to get over an obstacle. And what is life but not a series of obstacles to help us grow? And what happens when obstacles come again and we don't grow? They just repeat and repeat and repeat. And we go, oh, why does this always happen to me? It's only me. You know, we all experience stuff like that. These are lessons from life, the universe, whatever you want to call it, if we want to tap into it. Is grief bad? I ask. If it can then lead me to find that strength and courage and dignity that I didn't even know I had in me, and that roaring strength, that roaring courage. And actually, the animal associated with this element is the white tiger. And there are some forms where you're really getting rid of the grief, and then you're tapping into the strength and the courage, because the meridians for the lungs come down the arms. So we just have one or two today in the flow that we're doing, but this anything here can help. If anyone watching this thinks, oh, I think I have grief that's really coming out, perhaps, how can I harmonize it? Acupuncture could be one way as well, because people who work with acupuncture, they really understand with Qigong, you tap into Chinese, it's part of Chinese medicine. With acupuncture, they know all the details. They know the herbs that can help balance the emotions. They know which pinpoints, acupuncture comes from the word ago, which means needle. Okay, so they literally know to the fine detail which bits, and it could be stagnant chi. So that's my life force that's stuck because grief is coming out. I need to find a way to harmonize it. It could be through movements, it could be through the food, and it can also be through the mind. We explore that, not the food bit, but the rest of that, we explore that in our metal form today. So this is when I said, it can be a little bit overwhelming, but it's just to give a little bit of context about metal. Okay, so I've just got a little summary here. And obviously, metal, what does metal do? Metal cuts. If you have a sword, you're going to cut through. So that is the theme of letting go. So Monday, we saw the arrival of the autumn equinox. It's an invitation to slow down because the summer and the late summer is really potent yang energy. So yang is the white side, the yin is the black side. So if we've gone from this yang, hot, loud, outside, late nights. It's bright until late. All of that is yang, 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 yang. The winter is the winter solstice takes us to the yin. So we're in that transition. What does it mean if yin energy is rising? It means that the days are getting a little bit colder, the days are getting a little bit shorter. And how does that feel on a physical level? Well, we actually start to go more inwards because if yang is outwards, just think about it in the summer, you probably really want to go out all the time. And then when the autumn comes and the leaves start to fall, you naturally feel that sense of inwards. Maybe you want to read more or find those hobbies you do, knitting or journaling. That really comes with the season. That's been aligned with nature's pace. Because one thing I think we can all agree in is the pace of life, the rhythm of life is so frenetic. We live with this high frequency, and if you live in the city, you might feel it a lot. It depends. If you live in the countryside, you can choose to go in or tap in, or in the suburbs. But nature has her own rhythm. And when we look at autumn, it's one of those seasons where you can really see, the leaves are falling down. And the leaves are letting go. The trees are letting go, and we don't see the trees sad that they're letting go of their leaves. Obviously, it's an unusual thought, but they're just harmoniously. The tree knows this is part of a natural cycle that they fall. They bloom. There's all the colors, the shades of green in the summer and the spring. And now they're changing. They're letting go, getting ready for winter. It's part of nature's cycle. And if we are able to recalibrate and tune into nature's rhythm, too can find these flows. We can embrace the grief. We can embrace anything that comes out. Be aware. Yes, this is the season when I cut things out like an ancient samurai sword or ancient sword they were working on in the ancient times. It can cut, it can let go, like a snake sheds its skin. A snake doesn't go, oh, hang on, I just want to keep onto that last little bit of skin. The snake knows to surrender and completely let go to grow. And this is a really beautiful time of the year to really embrace that. But it is a choice, and there's no right or wrong. There's only what's right for you in this moment today, one day at a time, one step at a time. But most of us are curious about, wellness. We want mental health awareness. We want to live a nice holistic life. We want to do a lot. We have a lot of choice and not much time, and sometimes it's overwhelming. Um, it's a choice, but if we want to, it's like fine tuning into a radio, and it is possible. And one way is also here with the community that we're creating to talk, get in touch, let's talk about this. I'll meet regularly, and it's a choice to tune into nature's rhythm, into her wisdom. And Mother Earth is often called Pachamama in shamanism and the Quechua language of Peru. And she has messages. It might come in the wind, it might come with a leaf falling. So many times, if you say, what's your favorite moment ever, we think of this amazing memory, and it doesn't mean it's wrong, doesn't mean it's right. We'll think of the yang. Oh, I don't know, my 30th birthday, my 60th birthday was amazing, or my wedding day, or this, a really exciting moment when everything was perfect. And that's great, but that would be an example of really a perfect yang moment, if we want to call it. What is the perfect harmonious, just quietly, calmly content moment? Balanced. It could just be when you're pottering in your garden, or when you're watering a plant and you have those little moments, or doing gardening, or it could just be going on a walk with nature and you see some trees and some leaves fall down, or a squirrel eating an acorn. And there's just something really beautiful about experiencing that. And that happiness that arises is really balanced. Okay, it's not extreme. Oh, I'm so happy. Society does place, in my opinion, this pressure for us to always feel like, and social media does have an effect. I think most of us are mindful of it, and tap in or tap off, or even just don't tap into it, because we know when we see people having an amazing time, that puts pressure on us, or maybe we start to think something's wrong with us. But whatever you are doing to keep yourself sane in this crazy modern society we live in, autumn is the time to slow down, let go. And the last sentence here is, so you can hear your gut instinct, which is known as your po in Chinese medicine. So really to really trust when I can tap into the silence, when I can embrace being alone. Being alone is also very yin. I'm pointing here because I've got my window, and I'm often working here when it's dark, family are asleep, it's late at night, it's very yin. I'm alone, it's the colder seasons, it's dark, it's night, the moon, they're all yin. Um, and in those moments alone, you get a lot of messages, and it's a time for us to really tap into ourselves. And when we do go onto the movements, we have a chance to listen. Okay, and that is something that I really encourage in Keyflow movement.